looking for it to go away, but until that happens, we're still here, and we've got Hanukkah coming up. So one of the things that I always like to make is a brisket, but I have since discovered the most amazing little robot for cooking, the Instapot. It's my new friend. So I'm going to show you how to make a Hanukkah brisket the easy way, where you can just set it and forget about it. So if you are an Instapot user, you'll appreciate this. If you're new to Instapot, let me tell you a little bit about this, because it is a total 2.0 from your old-time pressure cookers. Now, a lot of you who haven't used this may be a little bit weary, leery, scared, because we've all heard the horror stories about the pressure cookers that exploded on the stoves. Now, this technology is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be totally safe, because this little baby has sensors inside that will monitor the heat, and it will not explode. So good to know, but remember, this is steam cooking, and at the end, if you release the steam manually, you can get a lot of steam coming up, and it is hot. So if you have little kids, I'm going to show you the safest way to use this, where you won't even have to worry about that. So today we are going to be making brisket. I'm going to do a very easy, simple recipe. You don't have to think about it, and you can even put your own spin on it. So usually when we have a Hanukkah dinner, we have a lot of people. I typically will make a 5-pound brisket. Today, I'm still going to use a 5-pound brisket, but if you decide to size down, you will just kind of size down your cooking time. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, this is going to be a dry rub brisket. So you're going to get the brisket, and what you're going to do is, when you bring the brisket home, you're going to ideally either have it the day before or the morning of, because you're going to want to marinate it with a dry rub and put it away in the refrigerator after that for a couple of hours. So what I've done is, I have my dry rub brisket ready to go. Here it is. So all this is a combination of spices, a little brown sugar. You put it on here and you let it sit and get real happy. So you can see over here, here are some of the spices you can use. Typically, just to start out, you'll want to have pepper. You will want to have salt, which I haven't shown here, but we all know what it looks like. Maybe a little garlic powder. I like to use a little cake chili powder, some cayenne pepper, some different flavors you can put in there, smoked paprika. If you get real daring, you might want to use some chimichurri spices. You might want to try some cumin. I like white pepper in addition, and then cinnamon will give it an interesting flavor. Less than a teaspoon, it's really spicy. So I've kind of done a few of these in my own mix here, and you can kind of play around with it. At the end of the day, whatever you do, it's going to be fun, and don't worry, you can always add gravy to it if you don't like the flavor. So now that we've got this marinated, the first thing we're going to do is, we're going to start with our Instapot. So going from the very beginning, right now our lid is on, and you'll see the Instapot will tell you when it's closed, because it will be slid all the way this way. So what we're going to do is, we're going to just open it so I can show you a little bit more. The Instapot is actually going to come with a pot that comes out. So you can pull this out and work with it. Even when it's done, it will be hot, so do not pull it out unless you have mitts on. Here, most of the Instapots will come with different equipment. This is a little trivet you can put in there if you want food to sit above liquid. We're not going to use this today, because we're going to keep it very simple. So I'm going to set this over here aside. So right now, we haven't pressure cooked yet. All we've got is our Instapot with the lid off. We're going to take it. I'm going to plug it in right here in my island, and it's going to turn on. So now you'll see this is an 8-quart Instapot. You can sell or buy a 6-quart or even a 4-quart, just depending upon how much you're going to plan to cook. This little dial is going to control all your settings. So we can go up, down, around, and you'll see it kind of moving. What we're going to do is, we are going to pressure cook. That's the top. So we're going to go back over here, and we're going to just kind of set this button for the moment. 35 minutes is the maximum setting. Now, when you read some recipes, it will say cook for 75 minutes. That's because 35 minutes is how long it's actually going to pressure cook. But by the time you put your lid on, it's going to need to heat. And so it's actually going to take a cycle closer to 60 to 75 minutes to get it done. So what we're going to just do right now is we're not going to set it or do anything else. We're just going to put our ingredients in the Instapot. So I've got 1 medium onion, because you obviously cannot have a brisket without onions. I've got about 3 tablespoons of minced garlic we're going to put in. You can use a stock if you want, or you can just use half a cup of water. Very easy to pour in. Remember, we're in a pressure cooker, so we are going to make a little bit of steam and a little bit of moisture, so you don't need to feel like you're overloading this with liquid. I like to have a little bit of acid, so what I'm going to do is a little apple cider vinegar, like this. And then just for a little bit of sweetness, we're going to use a little raw honey. I'm going to use about a tablespoon. If you like it real sweet, you can use a little more than that. So once you get all that in, we're kind of all nice and happy in the pot. I'm going to take it out and just kind of give you an idea of what it looks like in there. Real simple, smells nice. So our next step is we're going to literally take our meat and put it in our pot. So I'm going to use a set of tongs. You may need to use more than 1 tong depending upon how strong your tongs are and how strong your arms are. I'll move this over here. Here we go, into the pot. I'm going to kind of just mash it down in there so it's nice and happy. See if we can kind of shake these around. Just kind of pour the rest of that in there. Okay, so now here's our last and easy part. Now we're on. We're going to literally take our lid. We're on. We're going to close it. We're here, we're on pressure cook, and we are going to press start. That is all you have to do. Very, very simple. So what we're going to do is, while this is going, we're going to take a pause. I'm going to come back when this is done, show you how to turn it off, and then we'll have our great brisket done. So we're back. We are all done. You can see that we've counted down on our cooker to 0. So there are 2 things you could do to stop right now. You could either unplug this and it would just go ahead and cancel and everything would release, and at a certain point you would be able to open your Instapot. But what we're going to do is something that's a little bit faster, because today we don't have time to wait for that. So what we're going to do is actually release the pressure valve. So it's back here on this side. You may not be able to see it from here, but I'm going to actually point to it with the tongs. This is your pressure valve right here. This is where your steam is going to come out of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently release this, and what we're going to do is we're going to press this button until your little silver button goes all the way down. So be ready. Here we go. And our steam is going to release. Now keep an eye on that silver button, because the silver button is still up. We're going to just keep pressing, standing away from our machine until that button goes all the way down. When that button is all the way down, then we will be ready to open the lid. We're almost there. So during this time, we'll talk a little bit more about what our next step is going to be. Our next step is going to be to take the brisket out and let it rest. While the brisket is resting, I'm going to show you how to create a great sauce, and then we'll put it all together at the end. Almost there. All right, so we're back. So now we are all done. Our button is all the way down. If you had unplugged this and waited, the steam would have naturally released on its own over time, and the pressure would have gone down in your pot, and you would have had your button go down. At this point now, it is safe to open the lid. We're not gonna unplug it today because we're actually gonna cook our sauce in here, but if you were not making sauce, you would be able to just unplug it and be done. We're gonna turn our lid so that our lid now unlocks. We're gonna set it over here where I'm at on the stove. This will have a little bit of steam coming out, so just make sure that you don't get too close when you take the lid off. Now our brisket is in here, and we're actually gonna take it out. I may have to take it out in pieces. Let's see what we can do. But here it is. I'm gonna actually remove it using 2 sets of tongs and just put it over here so it can rest. So now you can see all that nice goodness. You can see all of those spices that have kind of really seeped in there. So now we're gonna finish up with our sauce, pour it over our brisket, and we'll be ready. So where you can see our onions and our sauce in here, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna add a cup of ketchup and also a little bit of spicy mustard. You could use Dijon mustard if you wanted, or you could just use, like me, a little bit more of a spicier mustard. So now that those are kind of all in there, we're gonna do our next step, which is we're gonna cook this sauce down for a little while. So we're gonna actually use our Instapot to do this too. So those of you that thought the Instapot was only for pressure cooking, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start here, and then we are going to turn our wheel back to where we need it to be. So here we go. We are gonna turn our wheel back to where we want it to go. You can see we're kind of going through. We're gonna look for our saute button. And depending upon which model you have, you may have different settings, but you usually will have a saute. So we're gonna start, and we're probably gonna end up doing it a little bit. We'll set it for a certain amount of time, about 30 minutes, but we're probably not gonna need that long. What we're gonna do is just have it on saute. It's already hot, and we're gonna kind of stir this around and cook that on our saute setting for around 8 to 10 minutes. So you don't have to stir it the whole time, but just kind of get it going and then check in. We don't want anything to burn. So for now, we're going to just kind of let that cook for a few minutes and then we'll come back. All right, so welcome back. We are on our very last step. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slice the brisket, and then we will put our sauce on. So as you can see, I've already started slicing. Most important thing with brisket is you want to slice against the grain. When you look down, you'll see the brisket, the grains run this way. So we're not going to slice this way. We're going to slice across perpendicular. Get kind of nice thin slices right across here. Here's our pieces, and you can slice these as thin or as thick as you like. Our last step is going to be to take some of our sauce now that we've got. It's all kind of nice and thickened up. I'm just going to take like a little scoop just to show you. Just spread it right over our brisket. And we are ready to serve. And so that is your Instapot brisket in a nutshell. So I wish you from the Finkelstein household all the best for a happy, healthy Hanukkah, a great New Year.